This is flaw number 17. Many people say that the press should not pry into the personal lives of private individuals, but the press has the right to publish any story of interest to the public unless that story is libelous. I didn't say that right. Libelous? No idea. So, if a story about a private individual is not libelous, the press has an obligation to publish it, for such information is clearly of interest to the public. So it's asking us what the flaw is. So with this question, we're going to identify our main conclusion and then how we get there. So our main conclusion is saying that if there's a story that's not libelous, the press has an obligation to publish it. That's our main conclusion right here. So we'll go ahead and start by just acknowledging that. So they're saying, if this is the case, there's no libel, the press must publish it. And why? This is clearly interesting to the public. That's their reasoning. We build on that reasoning. If it's of interest to the public, it's clearly of interest. Why do they need to publish it if it's of interest to the public? They say the press has the right to publish any story of interest to the public unless it's libelous. So since it's not libelous, they must, it's clearly of interest to the public. But we're trying to figure out, what's the issue with that argument? That first whole sentence saying the public should or the press should not pry into the personal lives of private individuals. That's some excess information. We don't really need that for our argument. We're evaluating the premise that, you know, the the right to publish any story of interest, the press has any right, like the press has the right, and that information that's not libelous about a public citizen that is clearly of interest. So our flaw, it looks like they're confusing this idea of having the right to do something, and that they should be doing something, that they, the right versus like the what they need to do, what the press needs to publish. So we'll go through and look at our answer choices and see what makes sense. And we remember our answer choice is actually going to be something that happens in the passage, and it's also going to be something that hurts our main conclusion over here in orange. Okay, we'll go ahead and look at our answer choices. A, the press can publish non libelous stories about private individuals without prying into their personal lives. So, our conclusion is about the press having the obligation to publish something. So, this doesn't really get into obligation. It's just saying they can publish without prying. Oh, what did I do there? Oh, I'm on the wrong pencil. So A is not going to be helpful to us because we don't care if they publish non-libelous stories without prying. Like that doesn't really hurt our argument. It doesn't hurt our conclusion. We're just talking about obligation here. B, one's having a right to do something entails one's having an obligation to do it. So if you have a right, you are obligated. This is exactly the confusion that's going on in this paragraph. Let's look at the other answer choices and see why they're wrong. C, the publishing of information about the personal lives of private individuals cannot be libelous. So this actually doesn't hurt our argument because, it doesn't get at obligation. Obligation is the big thing that we want to get here. How do they get from obligation from right to obligation? So we'll mark that out. D, if one has an obligation to do something, then one has a right to do it. So this one is a pretty compelling answer choice. But they're saying, the conclusion is about obligation. The conclusion is not justifying the premise here. We look at our argument, our premise is up here about the right. Therefore, the conclusion is that there's obligation. They've gone ahead and committed an incorrect reversal. They've, reversed the ideas. So we're going to go ahead and mark D out. E, the press's right to publish always outweighs the individual's right not to be libeled. We don't talk about the right not to be liable, and we don't talk about always outweighing it. This still has nothing to do with obligation. So we are going to cross out E and we're going to go with B as our final answer.